Welcome back to our channel. Today we're delving deep into a relationship. Have you ever wondered what goes through her head when you don't text her back? What if I told you that emotional distance can really increase her attraction to you? The dynamic, often overlooked but incredibly powerful, emerges when you're not present all the time. In this video, we'll discuss the idea of emotional detachment and why it can have a profound effect on how she perceives you. When you create space, something interesting can happen that prompts her to think about you more, piques her curiosity, and yes, even ignites a deeper level of desire. We'll also tie this concept to timeless Stoic principles because, let's face it, having emotional grounding and composure is one of the most endearing qualities one can possess. Please remember to click the like button if you find this content enjoyable. The Stoics teach us to not react to every impulse or emotion, and this mindset can be your greatest tool when navigating the modern dating scene. If you're ready to learn how to use emotional absence to your advantage to spark desire and build stronger connections in your relationships, stay tuned. We have a lot to cover. Ensure you never miss a new video by subscribing to the channel and activating the notifications. First, the importance of emotional detachment. Now let's explore Notion 1. We often misinterpret the potential of emotional distancing. You may associate emotional detachment with being aloof or cold, as if the only way to separate is to suppress your emotions. However, that's not what we mean when we talk about this. In the context of relationships, and particularly when viewed through a Stoic lens, emotional detachment refers to controlling your emotions so that they don't control you. Also, you're not ruled by your impulses, insecurities, or need for approval. Now consider this typical situation. The temptation to send another text to get that instant reassurance becomes overwhelming, but this is where emotional detachment comes into play. A Stoic perspective reminds us that our emotions, while valid, should never control our actions. You're texting someone you're interested in, and things are going well, but suddenly she stops responding. Anxiety, a typical reaction, begins to simmer within you. The Stoic mindset is based on accepting that everything else is beyond your control, including whether or not she responds to your message. What you can control, however, is how you respond to the situation. What is within your control is how you think, act, and react. When you don't chase or react emotionally, it sends a powerful signal of confidence and self-assuredness, demonstrating that your sense of worth isn't dependent on her response. Instead of double texting in a rush of anxiety or panic, you step back. You remain calm and composed, knowing that you are not defined by how quickly someone texts you back. And here's the key. This kind of emotional detachment is deeply attractive. It's crucial to demonstrate your strength in independence, the fact that you don't require validation from others, and the quiet confidence you exude. It's not about playing games or appearing indifferent. Self-assured, non-needy men who respect themselves enough not to freak out at the prospect of abandonment attract women. By engaging in emotional detachment exercises, you can cultivate a confident aura that attracts other people to you in addition to preserving your inner peace. Genuine confidence originates from understanding that regardless of the result, you maintain your composure and mastery over yourself. This is where your genuine strength resides. Secondly, initial confusion, additionally too. First, confusion and doubt. The emotional dynamic will change if she's used to it when you wait to answer and learn more about her situation. Prompt responses are important, especially if your connection has been stable. Otherwise, people will notice you're quiet. She might initially feel confused. She might start to wonder why he hasn't texted back, whether I said anything wrong, or if he is furious with her. These are the kinds of things that come to mind when someone expects a response right away and gets none at all. Humans naturally fill in the gaps with assumptions and queries. She may not realize it, but she has already invested herself emotionally in the interaction and is curious about your response. Her emotional engagement during this initial phase of confusion is crucial for maintaining the momentum of attraction. What may seem to you to be a brief period of silence is actually her mind rising to a state of heightened curiosity, and she is starting to wonder about your absence. The real power of this dynamic shift lies in the fact that, when left unanswered, confusion turns into curiosity, and curiosity is one of the strongest draws of attraction. In other words, our attraction to mystery stems from our innate tendency to seek answers when we don't fully understand something. This curiosity increases the other person's level of engagement more than if you were to constantly give them predictable, immediate answers. This is the moment when Stoicism offers a crucial lesson. While she's confused, your job is to remain calm and collected, resisting the need to instantly clear her confusion or explain yourself. By doing this, you're making a subtle but impactful statement. You're not controlled by the urge to clarify or explain things. Instead, you're signaling to her that you're not emotionally reactive, which signals emotional strength and independence, qualities that are incredibly attractive rather than feeling nervous or panicked about her potential confusion. You are demonstrating a type of patience that is beneficial to you. By creating a sense of enigma, you pique her curiosity, leaving her to ponder whether you're presenting yourself as a vulnerable individual who values his own tranquility over the constant need for affirmation or reassurance from others. The actual strength is in striking this balance between control and patience, which is essential for promoting deeper desire. Now, let's pause to consider this. Have you ever been in a position where someone's silence raised questions in your mind or piqued your curiosity? Or perhaps you have seen it happen the other way around, where holding back has actually benefited you. Post your ideas in the comments section below. I'm eager to hear your thoughts, or if you're unsure of what to say, simply write that curiosity makes a connection. Third, as time goes on, anticipation increases curiosity. Expectations rise. Her first feeling of uncertainty starts to transform into a much stronger curiosity. She's no longer merely wondering if something went wrong. Instead, she's growing more and more fascinated by your silence. Curiosity reaction is still lacking. What is stopping you from responding to a potentially life-changing text that you haven't responded to yet? Her mind starts to fill in the blanks, attempting to figure out what's going on with you, and every second that passes without you speaking, the suspense builds. Particularly in romantic relationships, curiosity is a strong emotion. The longer you keep quiet, the more she begins to wonder about you. Her mind moves from bewilderment to more in-depth inquiries. What is he doing right now? Why hasn't he reached out? Is he seeing someone else? Does he not care as much as I thought? These thoughts swirl in her mind, making you a constant figure in her internal dialogue, even in your absence. When someone is curious about you, they begin to think about you more frequently and more intensely. The mystery of your silence keeps her engaged, pulling her focus back to you repeatedly throughout her day. And here lies the magic of emotional detachment. By holding back and not rushing to respond, you're creating an aura of mystery around yourself. You're no longer just a predictable figure in her life. Instead, you've become someone she can't quite figure out. Intrigue. As more time passes and your response remains absent, this sense of the unknown makes you more attractive in her eyes. This initial confusion she felt begins to evolve into something far more potent: curiosity. Now she's not just wondering if something went wrong, but she's becoming increasingly intrigued by your silence. Her mind begins to fill in the gaps, attempting to understand what's happening on your end, and each moment that elapses without your response intensifies the suspense. What's preventing you from reaching out? Is there anything so essential in your life that you haven't responded yet? Curiosity is a strong emotion, particularly in romantic relationships. The longer you keep quiet, the more she begins to wonder about you, and her queries get more in-depth. Herein lies the magic of emotional detachment. By holding back and not rushing to respond, you're creating an aura of mystery around yourself. You're no longer just a predictable figure in her life. Instead, you've become someone she can't quite figure out. Intrigued by this sense of the unknown, she finds you more attractive because she now has to work to understand you. Is he seeing someone else? Does he care as much as I thought? These thoughts swirl in her mind, making you a constant figure in her internal dialogue, even in your absence. Contemplation of her own worth. Anything more substantial starts to happen. She starts to focus more on herself than on you, or the fact that you haven't messaged her. She starts to ask herself questions like, did I do something wrong? Was I not intriguing enough? Does he still like me? This type of self-reflection can evoke a deeper emotional response in her, thereby raising questions about your perception of her. At this point, emotional absence is powerful because she is considering more than just what you are doing. She is also considering how she fits into your relationship. She becomes more emotionally invested because she is now questioning whether her actions were sufficient to keep your interest. The uncertainty about how you see her adds a new dimension to her feelings for you, making her wonder if she has done enough. Her emotional investment grows in this reflection as she begins to consider her place in the relationship and becomes more invested in the concept of you. It's no longer just about the superficial interactions or how frequently you message her. It's about something more important, her sense of value. In your eyes, the more she thinks about herself, the more invested she gets in understanding your opinion of her, which deepens her emotional attachment. This is where Stoicism comes into play. Stoicism teaches us to concentrate on our own control over other people's opinions or judgments. In this case, you're not looking to her for constant validation. Rather, you're showing that you are confident in your own value and don't need other people's approval to validate your worth by remaining emotionally composed and delaying gratifying her introspection. You're allowing her to recognize your value without ever having to state it explicitly. Think about the power in that you're not trying to convince her of your worth with words or actions. Instead, by simply holding back and remaining calm, you're giving her the space to come to that realization on her own, and when she arrives at that conclusion through her own reflection, it holds far more weight than if you were to try to spell it out for her. She now sees that you are a person who is emotionally secure and who doesn't need to constantly seek attention or validation, and that calm confidence is what draws her even closer. This self-assurance is what separates you from others who might be quick to respond or over-explain themselves. You're not driven by anxiety or a need to control how she views you. Instead, you're content with letting her come to terms with her own feelings, knowing that her reflection will only enhance her emotional connection to you, and by the time she's done questioning her own value, she'll likely have a deeper appreciation for yours. Your emotional absence initiates a process of introspection and self-examination that builds a potent dynamic. Now that we've discussed how emotional absence can prompt in-depth self-reflection and intensify her emotional attachment, the question is no longer just whether she likes you, but also whether she feels confident in her ability to hold your interest. As that uncertainty grows, so does her emotional attachment to you, fueled by the quiet strength you've displayed through your patience and restraint. Please share your opinions on this dynamic with me. Have you ever seen or experienced something similar in a relationship? If so, How did it impact the bond between you and the other person? Leave a comment below, and together we can explore this. Alternatively, if you're feeling highly motivated, remember that strength always speaks louder. I'm interested in hearing your perspectives. Number 5. The worry that she won't be as interested if there's still no word. The fear of losing interest might begin to feel a subtle but powerful fear creeping in. What if you're losing interest? What if you've moved on or simply aren't as invested in the relationship anymore? This fear, though uncomfortable, can spark a significant change in her emotions. It creates a sense of urgency, a feeling that maybe she needs to act or reach out to keep your attention. She starts to wonder, should I text him? Do I need to do more to keep him engaged? The longer you remain silent, the more this fear intensifies. But if you approach it with the right mindset, it can work in your favor. This fear is a natural reaction to emotional absence, particularly when someone deeply cares about the relationship. It taps into the basic human fear of loss, which often drives us to act out of concern or anxiety. But here's where the Stoic approach becomes critical. While she may be grappling with the fear of losing you, you remain centered and calm. As a Stoic, you don't allow fear to dictate your actions. You don't rush to text her back just because you're concerned she might lose interest. Instead, you recognize that fear is a destructive emotion that leads to impulsive actions and emotional instability. Stoicism encourages us to act with reason and self-control instead of fear or worry, because we are rooted in our own beliefs and feelings. You understand that if the connection between you two is genuine, it will strengthen even in your absence. This confidence rooted in self-awareness and emotional resilience makes you even more attractive because it signals that you are not someone who can be easily swayed by fleeting emotions like fear or insecurity. You know your value and trust that if the relationship is meant to deepen, it will without the need for constant reassurance. By holding back and not texting her, you're allowing her to confront this fear on her own. While this may seem harsh on the surface, it's actually giving her an important opportunity to reflect on her feelings and the value she places on the relationship. The fear of losing you compels her to think more deeply about what she stands to lose if she lets you slip away. It's in this moment of reflection that she becomes even more invested in you, because she realizes how much your presence or even the idea of your absence affects her. This dynamic creates a powerful shift. Instead of just passively interacting with you, she is actively considering what she would need to do to maintain the relationship, which, while partly motivated by fear, also propels her into a deeper emotional investment. The knowledge that losing you is a possibility now drives her, not just curiosity or confusion. This urgency may cause her to take more proactive steps to keep your connection strong. But in the midst of all of this, it's crucial that you, the Stoic, maintain your composure. You're not playing games or attempting to control her feelings. Rather, you're exercising emotional restraint and understanding that genuine connection doesn't require constant nurturing or quick fixes. You believe that if the relationship is strong, her fear of losing you will only serve to strengthen it, as she comes to understand how much she values your presence in her life. By letting her experience her fear of losing you, you're assisting her in realizing the significance of what you bring to the relationship, and in doing so, you're establishing yourself as someone who doesn't need to chase after attention or beg for it. This quiet strength, grounded in Stoic principles, not only heightens her attraction to you, but also deepens the emotional investment she feels, making her even more eager to maintain the relationship. Number 6. Increased emotional investment. A higher level of emotional investment. By this stage, the emotional investment in the relationship has begun to shift in the early days. You were likely the one who felt more invested, more eager to communicate and keep the connection alive. But now, after a period of silence and reflection, the balance has changed. She's had time to think, to reflect on your interactions, and to wonder about what's going on in your mind, instead of being focused solely on her. The dynamic now places you as the focal point of her thoughts. She's replaying past conversations, analyzing your words, and questioning what might come next. This is a powerful transformation in emotional dynamics. What's remarkable here is that this shift in investment happened precisely because you stepped back, by not constantly seeking her attention or validation. You created the mental and emotional space for her to start thinking about you more deeply. Emotional investment isn't something that flourishes in a flood of constant communication. Rather, it grows in the quiet moments, in the gaps between messages. When she's left alone with her thoughts and feelings, these spaces of silence give her the opportunity to question, reflect, and ultimately invest more of herself into the relationship. This is where the power of emotional detachment becomes evident. By detaching yourself from the need to be constantly present, you allow her to fill that space with her own emotions and thoughts. This creates a dynamic where she's now more emotionally invested than before, drawn deeper into the relationship without you having to push or chase. Her emotional detachment gives her the freedom to explore her own feelings, and in doing so, she becomes more engaged, more curious, and more invested in what's happening between the two of you. This is a key concept in Stoic philosophy, recognizing that you cannot control how someone else feels or thinks. What you can control is how you conduct yourself, your patience, your emotional restraint, and your ability to remain calm in moments of uncertainty. By maintaining your composure and not reacting impulsively, you've allowed her to experience a sense of longing, curiosity, and emotional reflection, and as a result, she's begun to invest more of herself into the relationship. The more she thinks about you, the more she reflects on the connection, and the more time she spends wondering where you stand, the deeper her emotional investment becomes. This creates a sense of value around the relationship that wasn't as apparent in the beginning. When someone invests their emotions, they tend to place higher importance on what they've invested in. She's now more likely to appreciate and value the relationship simply because she spent time contemplating it in your absence. If you've made it this far, you're already seeing how powerful the shift in emotional investment can be when you step back and allow space for reflection. Now I'm interested in hearing your opinions. How does emotional detachment contribute to a greater relationship, in your opinion? Please feel free to share your thoughts on point 7, re-engaging by leaving a comment below or simply typing emotional detachment is a powerful way to show me that you're connecting with this subject. Your insights and experiences could inspire others. Getting back in the game. Once the period of silence has passed and you've given room for emotional investment to deepen, it's time to think about re-engagement. However, how you do this is important. The objective isn't to rush back in with a flurry of messages or apologies for the time apart. Rather, the key is to remain calm, composed, and deliberate in your approach. After a period of silence, a simple message like, "Hey, how's your day been?" can demonstrate your confidence instead of provoking fear. It's crucial to remember not to overcompensate for the time you spent away. Rather, the stillness was a conscious decision that gave you both the room to think and develop while maintaining an easygoing and casual tone. You convey that you're returning to the conversation with emotional equilibrium and confidence. There's no need for justifications or excessive apologies, just a sincere re-engagement that continues where you left off. When you re-engage with someone, you should adopt the mindset that Stoicism teaches us to avoid extremes in our actions, neither too much nor too little. You should strike a balance by demonstrating that you're present, but not needy, interested, but not desperate. This equilibrium signifies emotional maturity, which is highly attractive, as it suggests your control over your emotions and lack of reliance on external approval. Your decision to re-engage should be based on strength rather than fear or insecurity. You're not reaching out because you're afraid she won't be interested. Rather, you're reaching out because you're confident in the connection you've established. This is the point where practicing emotional detachment will really pay off, because it will allow her to feel the full range of emotions. She's probably been thinking about you, wondering when or if you'll reach out, and now the time has finally come. Instead of a grand gesture or a barrage of messages, you offer her something more subtle, a simple, thoughtful message that shows you've been thinking of her, but you're still in control of your emotions. Confusion, curiosity, reflection, and even a little fear are some of the deeper emotions she has invested in you. When you reach out, your message carries more weight. It's a deliberate, thoughtful act that rekindles the connection between you, not just another text amidst daily interactions. Re-engaging after a period of silence is about timing, tone, and intention. By remaining cool under pressure, you demonstrate that you cherish the relationship but don't need to communicate constantly to keep it going. You've given her space to think, question, and realize how much she has emotionally invested in the relationship, and now, with a straightforward but thoughtful message, you're rekindling that connection from a place of strength and emotional clarity, which will make her even more drawn to you in the process. Need for reconnection and validation. An intriguing shift in dynamics occurs when you eventually re-engage after the period of silence. She now wants to know that everything is okay, that the connection is still strong, and that your interest hasn't diminished. This subtle need for reassurance indicates a big change in the relationship. It's important to keep in mind one of the most important lessons of Stoicism: emotional independence. As a Stoic, you're not dependent on her validation to feel secure or confident in yourself. Rather, she is the one striving to restore the emotional connection and seeking assurance that you remain committed to the relationship. Your sense of value originates internally, not outside. You don't need her or anyone else's continual validation to feel positive about yourself, since you know how valuable you are. Your internal stability, which comes from delaying giving her immediate comfort, is what sets you apart from people who are always looking for approval. Because of the relationship you've created, she is now actively seeking your attention and looking for evidence that everything is okay, which makes her more emotionally invested in you. Her level of emotional engagement in the relationship has increased, but here's the thing: even as you re-engage with her, you're not giving away validation too easily. This doesn't make you seem cold or distant. Rather, it shows that you're composed, confident, and not overly eager to allay her worries or fears. This emotional detachment is powerful because it keeps you from coming across as needy or desperate. Instead, you come across as someone who values yourself and your time. You're not rushing to win her over or allay her fears. Instead, you're simply re-engaging on your terms from a place of calm strength. This approach also increases your attractiveness because it shows that you're not emotionally dependent on her approval or reactions. In other words, you're letting her come to you when she needs validation, but you're not giving it to her in an excessive or needy manner. Rather, you're giving her just enough involvement. This delicate balance is necessary to keep her engaged and invested without jeopardizing your own emotional stability. You're demonstrating your self-control and avoiding external influences by staying grounded and resisting the need to quickly assuage her fears. This leads to a dynamic in which she becomes more invested in sustaining the relationship and starts to seek validation and reassurance from you, but you're giving it to her on your terms and from a position of emotional strength and detachment. This change in power increases your attractiveness because it demonstrates that you don't need her approval or attention to feel secure. In fact, by remaining calm and confident, you've increased her desire to stay in touch with you and seek your validation, which has deepened her emotional investment in process number 9. The change in authority. 9. The power dynamics shift. When you first started dating, the power dynamics in the relationship may have been in her favor. Perhaps you were the one who was more eager to text or invested in continuing the conversation. Perhaps you felt that you had to work harder to keep her engaged. However, by purposefully stepping back and giving her the space to feel your absence, the balance naturally tipped in your favor. Now, she's the one who's more emotionally invested and the one seeking your validation. This shift isn't the result of manipulation or games, rather, it's the outcome. Stoicism teaches us that real power comes from mastering our own actions and emotions, which is precisely what has occurred in this situation. True power does not come from attempting to control others. You didn't try to push her into a dependency or need situation. Instead, you practiced emotional detachment, kept your cool, and let the relationship work itself out for the mutual benefit of the two of you. By embracing emotional detachment, you've done more than just remove yourself from the relationship. You've given her a chance to think about you, miss you, and realize how valuable you are. Her investment has increased since she's realized the value of your absence. She's now wondering when you'll reach out and pay attention. At the center of this power shift is your cool, collected confidence. You're no longer chasing her or trying to win her approval at every turn. You've mastered your emotions, and you're secure in your value. Since many individuals become nervous when they don't receive immediate attention or affirmation, your self-assurance stands out due to your demonstrated emotional control and tolerance, traits rooted in the Stoic philosophy. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control how others react, but we can control how we respond to situations. That you can stay calm in uncertain times makes you more attractive. You're not seeking validation from her because you don't need external approval to feel positive about yourself. Your quiet confidence radiates outward, drawing her to you naturally. With the power dynamics shifted, she's more attracted to you for how you've handled yourself, not just who you are. You've shown her that you're not desperate for her attention, and that kind of emotional independence is incredibly appealing. By practicing emotional detachment, you've motivated her to strive for your attention, seek your validation, and invest more in maintaining connection. Number 10. Maintaining an ideal balance between communication and space is crucial in any relationship. Excessive communication can stifle the connection and become overwhelming, while insufficient communication can create a distance that may be challenging to bridge. The key is to realize how important balance is. Stoicism is based on the idea of finding the sweet spot, the place where you allow her to miss you without making her feel distant, between presence and absence. Stoicism teaches us to stay away from extremes in all facets of life, neither overindulging nor underindulging. This also holds true in relationships. When you practice emotional detachment, you're not withdrawing to play games. Rather, you're making space for both of you to reflect, grow, and experience deeper feelings. The reason this approach is so effective is that when you do re-engage, it's with a purpose rather than out of a need for constant reassurance or validation. By demonstrating your confidence in your worth, you convey a powerful message to her. Rather than being someone who is always available or someone who disappears entirely, you create a rhythm of absence and presence that keeps the relationship healthy. This emotional distance allows her to miss you and think about you in a more meaningful way, while also giving you the opportunity to stay centered and not lose yourself in the relationship. The tension that exists between these two states is dynamic and thrilling, and it's this tension that keeps you both interested and attracted. This well-balanced approach also makes it obvious that you respect the connection, but are not dependent on it. Your self-confidence is what makes you irresistible, and you're showing her that you care about her and the relationship, but are emotionally independent and don't need constant validation to feel secure. It's about finding a pace that lets the relationship breathe and grow, not about vanishing forever or being aloof for the sake of mystery. Naturally, you're showing her that you have the emotional maturity to show her that you care about her. By giving her time to think and miss you, and then re-engaging with confidence and intention, you're cultivating a deeper, more meaningful connection. You're showing her you value the relationship, but don't define you. This kind of emotional strength, rooted in Stoic principles, makes you not only attractive, but also someone she respects and admires. It's this balance that keeps the relationship both exciting and stable, providing the foundation for a lasting and fulfilling connection, as we've delved deep into the nuanced art of emotional absence. In conclusion, relationships, you've seen how stepping back can not only spark curiosity and desire, but also encourage a deeper, more introspective engagement from her. By aligning this approach with Stoic wisdom, we learn that true strength lies not in constant presence, but in the thoughtful management of our emotional landscapes, ensuring that we don't react impulsively, but move with intention and dignity. We've explored how creating space doesn't push people away, instead it can draw them closer, making the moments you do share all the more profound, and cherish this dance between presence and absence when done with respect and self-awareness. This aligns beautifully with the Stoic principles of self-control and emotional independence, ultimately enhancing the depth and quality of our connections. Please feel free to like this video if it has inspired you to think or experienced something similar. Please share your thoughts or a personal story in the comments section below. If you're interested in learning more about how to apply the Stoic philosophy to your relationships, be sure to watch the suggested videos currently playing on your screen. Please remember to balance independence and connection in both love and life, as we appreciate your time. Continue to be curious, kind, and, most importantly, committed to discovering your own and others' hearts.